This was a very ugly game for Miami, and it's not really Miami's fault, and that's what's the most frustrating thing about it. It was not really our fault. There was so much out of our control in this game, and that made it so frustrating to watch. This was a very frustrating game. Seeing Miami do everything they could against so much adversity, and eventually it broke them. And I can't really blame Miami for breaking because there's so much pressure piled up on top of them. If it wasn't bad officiating, it was injuries. If it wasn't injuries, it was self-inflicting penalties. And it was just an endless assault against us. It's just really funny to me how, Miami can have 11 or 12 penalties and the Eagles had 0 and we played in Philly. That's just a massive fucking coincidence, isn't it? That's crazy how that happens. This is just one of those games where I don't even really know what to say. Miami didn't look bad. We looked like the better team for the most part, honestly. That's really how it was. The Eagles had a really good run defense. We started to break it apart at the end of the game in the third quarter, but it didn't really mean much because stupid penalties kept hurting us, and we were forced to just keep passing the ball, and that can only take you so far because big plays are getting called back, and big time players were not playing up to what their typical standard. They were playing pretty uncharacteristic. Tyreek Hill had 2 very uncharacteristic drops this game, and that just hurts us. But besides that doesn't make this game the game it was. What makes this game the game it was, and I hate to have to talk about this, but you have to. And if you watch the game, this is why we lost, and it was bad officiating. It was way too evident. There were so many times in this game where we had it, and bad officiating would literally kill us. If it was on our offense or if it was on our defense, absolutely momentum killers. The 2 biggest ones for both sides was the Christian Wilkins roughing the passer, which he literally just tapped Hurts. And y'all watch the game know that the official they bring on the broadcast said there was not enough contact to warrant a penalty. They still called it because of course they did. Whatever. Eagles went on to score a touchdown when that should have been a 3 and out. But it is what it is. And then you get to later in the game on a very crucial third down. It was third or fourth down, and Tua throws to the left sideline, and James Bradbury just absolutely grabs Cedric Wilson's face mask and pulls it straight down, allowing the pass to be pretty much uncatchable. And lo and behold, no flag, even though there was a ref 4 feet behind him staring him down. No flag, nothing. And it's just what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do against that? And there's many of plays that the Eagles didn't get called on. I'm about to put them up on the video. Let y'all see these plays where no penalty was called. It just try and fathom your head around that. How bad officiating can be. And this is where I really, really do think, I saw someone talk about it today after the Colts game. For anyone who didn't watch that game, at the very end of the game, 2 very, very questionable calls that ended up costing the Colts the game. And people were saying you need to start fining refs for horrible calls. And I'm not just gonna say I'm on that boat because of the Dolphins game. I've been on that boat for a while. Bad officiating is not new. It's not new to this season. It's been happening for a long time, and there's no penalty for it. I think there needs to be a penalty for it to incentivize refs to stop being assholes and make fair calls. But that's probably never gonna happen. So it just sucks to not pay the refs enough money, I guess. The Eagles obviously have the refs on their side. You got the Eagles coach over there. He was smiling enough with the refs, big cheesing with the refs the whole game. Probably has his fucking hand in their pants the entire game. And it's just what are you supposed to do? You can't win a game if the refs are against you. It is impossible. It is pretty much impossible because any big play you have, any important play you have, is going to get called back. Or if there's a call that needs to happen, obviously it's not going to get called. That pass interference no call was as obvious of a pass interference as you get. You can't interfere with a pass more than James Bradbury did on that play, and no call, even with a ref 4 feet away from it staring him down. It is just ridiculous. And there's just really not much else to say about this. I hate to make videos negative, but there's really just not a lot of positives to take away. We were just getting suffocated by the refs and by injuries. I mean, Tyreek Hill had 11 catches for 88 yards and a touchdown. Obviously, Tyreek was still Tyreek, but Tyreek had some bad drops. He should have had a much better game. There's some uncharacteristic drops for Tyreek And it was just plays like that that also killed us. And it's not all the like I really got into it with the refs and the Eagles. I made it bad, but it's not every single penalty called was a bad penalty. I mean, we had Isaiah Wynn go out very early in the game. We sent in last name Cotton. He had a lot of false starts that are just obvious false starts. The backup center, that one play, snapped the ball late, made the whole offensive line jump off sides pretty much because he snapped it late. He didn't snap it on the call. And it's like plays like that are just self-inflicting that happen. That's not really the Eagles or the refs causing that to happen. That was just Miami screwing ourselves over. But it wasn't all that either. And those plays did not define this game. It was the bad no calls that defined this game, and that's why you gotta talk about it so much. And it's ridiculous, But at the end of the day, we lost, and that's really just it. I can bitch all I want about bad officiating and bad this, bad that, bad injuries. We got to get healthy. At the end of the day, we lost, and we can't go back and win, so we just got to move on. We're playing New England next week, who beat the Buffalo Bills, and honestly, I'm not even worried about it. The Bills look awful. They lost today. They looked horrendous. New England still looks horrendous. They just look better than the Bills. That tells you where the Bills are at right now. So next week should definitely be a bounce-back game. We play the New England Patriots at home, Hard Rock Stadium. It's a much-needed bounce-back game before we head to Germany, play the Chiefs, which will be a must-win. We do gotta beat the Chiefs. They break this narrative we can't beat good teams, because that's all that's gonna see all week, and that's what's gonna suck. Everyone's gonna say Miami are frauds. They can't be good teams, when that's just not the case. If you ask me, and if you watch the game and you're not a biased Eagle fan, you'll see Miami at times looked like the better team. It was just those big plays we should have had got called back, or something uncharacteristic happened, like Tyreek Hill dropping the pass because he got more focused on running before making sure he had the ball secured. And that shit that happens sometimes, but you can't account for that every single time. Defense played really good. I know it's 31-17. Defense still played really good. They looked very good for a lot of those drives, and the big reason why the Eagles were able to put up so much was because of bad calls. The bad Christian Wilkins roughing call gave the Eagles a freebie touchdown pretty much. And the Eagles tush push, they spammed that shit. I do think the NFL needs to do something about that, and I'm trying to be as non-biased about that as possible because it just happened against us and it was frustrating. But and that might be the only reason I'm saying it, because it happened to me and doesn't need to do something about it. It just seems so cheap, and there's really no way to stop it. They can make the argument it's for safety reasons. They gotta stop doing it, and that works for me. It's just, it was kind of ridiculous. We should have got the ball back after a punt, but they sent their team back out there and picked it up, and then like 3 times after that, they picked it up. They would just literally get down the 4th and 1, 4th and inches, then tush push it for a set of downs. It was very frustrating to watch. Maybe they can just limit that. You can only tush push like 2 times a game or something. I don't know. That kind of seems kind of stupid too. I don't know. I'm just mad. I'm frustrated. I'm just emotional. I'm not gonna lie. Bradley Chubb had an amazing game. He's absolutely a stud. I love Chubb. He's been having a good season, and this game he really kind of broke out, honestly. And if it wasn't just for bad officiating, that would be one of the biggest highlights of this game. Bradley Chubb with the whole defense wrecking house. Jalen Phillips was back to his just being a freaking monster as well. He looked back to absolute elite form. Kader Kahoo played his ass off too. You can't expect much from him having to line up AJ Brown, but he had some good plays. He laid the boom on Brown a few times. He did the best he could. I did like what I saw from Kader Kahoo. Van Ginkel had a pretty good game too, except for that horrible failed tackle on AJ Brown where he just bounced off of him. That was very frustrating, but he had a TFL, had a QB hit, had 6 tackles. Van Ginkel did not have a bad game. It was that one play that was frustrating. Wilkins, see, this is another one of the uncharacteristic things I was talking about. Wilkins had a few offsides. He had 2 of them. And that was just very uncharacteristic for one of the most elite and experienced players on our defense. And that's just one of those other things that just hurt us. I'm not gonna count the roughing against them. That should not have been roughing. That was just a bullshit penalty. Eli Apple had a good player too, but for the most part, I don't know why he's really out there. I'd really rather see Cam Smith. I don't think Cam Smith could be much worse than Eli Apple. I think I'd rather see that. And that's just another thing that really hurt us. I didn't even really get to the injuries that just killed us because the penalties were so frustrating. We didn't have Xavier Howard. We lost Isaiah Wynn, and we already don't have Teron Armstead or Connor Williams. So that is 3 starters on our offensive line down. Xavier Howard and Jalen Ramsey, our 1 and 2 corners, were out. There was a period where Javon Holland was out because he ran into David Long, and David Long was out for the rest of the game, I think. And David Long was having a damn good game too. Yeah, David Long was playing his ass off. He looked very good before he smacked into Javon Holland and just got his fucking shit rocked. I don't think he came back into that game, got evaluated for concussion. Let's get into some positives. I do want to take away some good things from this game. Cedric Wilson had 2 great catches. I love to see that. I talked in the previous episode, bro. I'm not on TV. A previous video where Cedric Wilson, he had like 3 catches or whatever, and I was talking about how, you haven't really seen much from Cedric ever since we got him, so that was kind of cool to see him get 3 catches, get brought into this game a little bit. He had 2 great catches this game. Should have had a third, but James Bradbury's a bitch and knew he couldn't cover Cedric, so he pulled his face mask knowing he wouldn't get called for it because his coach's hand was in the ref's pants. But it was really nice to see him step up this game, especially when Jalen Waddle was also injured this game. It's just another injury. Another starter was out for a period of this game. Waddle ended up coming back, having 6 catches for 63 yards, but you could tell he just wasn't moving how he typically does. He injured his lower back, and he was obviously was affecting him, and he was trying his hardest to stay in the game, but there's only so much you can do with a hurt back. But Cedric stepped up when we needed him to, had a massive, it was like 3rd and 18. He caught it for like 29 yards. Beautiful catch, beautiful throw by Tua. I love to see that by Cedric. I want to give him his kudos for that. 2 great catches. Tua had a really good game. He was on fire there for a while before officiating just broke it for him, and bad drops by his receivers. He easily should have had probably 3 touchdowns this game, 2 of them. All 3 of them to Tyreek, honestly. Tyreek had 3 touchdowns this game, dropped 2 of them. Or not dropped 2, he dropped 1 of them, and the other one was called back from a holding. So, that just really like hurt Tua's stat line. But if you watch the game, you saw Tua wasn't really struggling all that much. His pick was a bad pick. I will not, I'm not going to defend him on that hill. That was, I don't know why you're trying to toss it up to Mostert. Mostert kind of was open, but when you run a route that close to Jalen Waddle, knowing Darius Slay's on Jalen Waddle, Mostert is not winning a 50-50 ball against Darius Slay. That was a bad pass, but they happen. When you have a gunslinger like Tua, he's going to throw interceptions. He's going to throw questionable balls. It happens. It was all those other plays that really hurt us more than the pick. The pick didn't really hurt us nearly as bad as some of these penalties did, and that's just the honest truth. Mostert struggled, but not by his own fault. That Eagles front 7 was just blowing up the run game. I will give the Eagles that. Their run defense was pretty freaking phenomenal in the first half. Second half would let up. Mostert ended up getting 9 carries for 45 yards. He broke a 21-yard carry. That was pretty good. But by the time, the run game was finally starting to happen, Miami was just falling behind because of horrible play calling and bad penalties and injuries, and we just had to throw the ball. We had to try and keep up, and the run game kind of just stifled out because we couldn't really afford the, run clock like that. Just pick up these little 3-yard, 4-yard runs. So Jeff Wilson was out there. Didn't really see much of him though. He had a catch for 4 yards. Didn't really run the ball. I don't think it would have made much of a difference. I think Mostert was the only healthy running back that had a chance of making anything happen. But yeah, dude, it was just a very frustrating game to watch. And at the end of the day, it's a lot of things happen this game that won't be replicated in future games. The bad officiating will not happen every week. The amount of injuries that our team is facing will not stay as lengthy as it is. People will heal up and they will get back on the field. Ramsey's in his 21-day window to come back. Xavier Howard will probably be back next week. He said he thought he'd be good for this game, happened to not be, so hopefully he's good for next game. Imagine he will be back. Achane will be back after the bye. Jalen Waddle will heal up. Connor Williams will heal up. Teron Armstead will heal up. We have so many injuries right now. That's hurting us too. We're just not at 100%, and we're just going to have to get back to 100%. We're going to have to survive until then, But at the end of the day, I'd say we're better off than Buffalo. We're still first in the division because Buffalo had a very embarrassing loss to New England. So that's the good news. We got to keep our heads up. Like I said, we play New England next week, Hard Rock. That should be an easy bounce back game. I'm not worried about the Patriots. I'm not worried about this team, honestly. It's like I just want to drive that home for anyone who happened to not catch the game. This game was not our fault. All anyone trying to tell you was, it really wasn't. This was out of our hands. It was too much adversity for like pretty much any team to get over. But we'll just have to come back better next week. I hope to see the Eagles again in the Super Bowl. I plan on beating them that time. I know Miami does too. Fins up. I'll catch y'all next week.